Late at night, in a dimly lit apartment. The rain taps against the window as Emily sits on her couch, scrolling through her phone. Her eyes are tired until a notification makes her freeze. Unknown number, Emily? Her heart stops. Emily whispering, "No way." She hesitates, fingers trembling, then replies. "Emily, who is this?" "Unknown number. It's me, Claire." Her breath catches. Claire, her best friend. The one who vanished without a trace 4 years ago. "Emily, that's not funny. Claire is gone." "Unknown number, I know. But I need your help." Emily's pulse pounds. She grips her phone tighter. "Emily, where are you?" A long pause. Then, "Unknown number. Somewhere I shouldn't be. Don't tell anyone. Please, Em." A chill runs down Emily's spine as she types. "Emily, Claire, are you in danger?" The typing bubble appears. Stops. Then one last message. "Unknown number, they're watching." The screen goes dark. Midnight. Emily stared at her phone, her breath shallow. The message from Claire, her missing best friend, glowed on the screen. "They're watching." A shiver crawled up her spine. Her mind raced. Who was watching? Why now, after 4 years of silence? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Emily. Claire, tell me where you are. I'll come get you." The message delivered, but no response came. The typing bubble flickered for a second, then disappeared. Emily swallowed hard, her pulse erratic. She should call the police. She should call someone. But something about the message sent a warning deep in her gut. If Claire said not to tell anyone, maybe she had a reason. Her phone vibrated. Another message. "Unknown number. Meet me at our place. 3 a.m. Come alone." Emily's heart skipped. Our place. That meant only one thing. The abandoned pier by Blackwood Lake, where they used to sneak off as teenagers. But the last time she was there was the night Claire disappeared. She grabbed her car keys. This could be a trap. But if there was even a chance Claire was alive, she had to go. Blackwood Lake, 3:02 a.m. The docks stretched into the dark, the lake's surface eerily still. Fog rolled in thick waves, muffling the sound of Emily's cautious steps on the damp wooden planks. "Claire?" she called, her voice barely above a whisper. Silence. Then a rustling sound. Emily spun, her phone flashlight slicing through the fog. A shadow moved near the old boathouse. "Claire?" A figure stepped forward, just beyond the light's reach. Her breath hitched. Long, tangled hair. A too-thin frame. "Claire." Emily took a step forward, then stopped. Something was wrong. Claire wasn't moving closer. She was just standing there, her face hidden in the shadows. "Emily." Claire's voice was hoarse, barely audible. Emily felt the urge to run. "Claire, what happened to you?" A beat of silence. Then, "You shouldn't have come." A sharp crack echoed behind her. Before she could turn, everything went black. Unknown location, darkness. A dull ache throbbed at the back of Emily's head. Her limbs felt heavy, her mouth dry. She groaned, trying to move, but her wrists were bound. Panic surged through her as she forced her eyes open. She was in a dimly lit room, concrete walls, a single flickering light overhead. The air smelled damp, metallic. A basement? A warehouse? Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Emily's breath caught as a shadow moved near the doorway. "You're awake," a voice said. She turned her head, her vision still blurry, and saw Claire standing there. But something was wrong. Claire's face was gaunt, her eyes hollow. Dark bruises marred her pale skin. "Claire," Emily whispered. "What is this? What's happening?" Claire didn't answer right away. She glanced over her shoulder, like she was afraid someone was watching. "I didn't have a choice," Claire murmured. "I needed you to come." Emily's heart pounded. "Claire, you're scaring me. Who took me? Who's watching?" Claire took a shaky breath, stepping closer. "They never stopped looking for me, Em. And now they know about you too." The door behind Claire creaked open. A deep voice spoke from the shadows. "Good. She's finally awake." Emily's blood ran cold. The basement. Emily's breath hitched as the figure stepped into the dim light. A man, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black. His face was mostly hidden by the shadows, but she caught the gleam of his cold eyes. Claire stiffened beside her, her fingers curling into fists. Emily's voice was hoarse.
Who are you?
What do you want? The man ignored her, turning his attention to Claire. You did well bringing her here. Now step back. Claire hesitated, her eyes pleading as she looked at Emily. I'm sorry, she whispered, then stepped away. A fresh wave of panic surged through Emily. Claire, no, don't do this. She struggled against the restraints, but the ropes bit into her wrists. The man crouched in front of her, his voice eerily calm. Emily Carter, you should have stayed away. She swallowed hard. What are you talking about? I just wanted to find Claire. His lips curved into a smirk. That's the problem. You weren't supposed to find her. Emily's mind spun.
Who are you?
What did you do to her? Claire flinched but said nothing. The man tilted his head. You think she was missing all these years? No, Emily. She was taken. And she was supposed to stay that way. Emily's stomach twisted. Taken by who? You? The man chuckled low and menacing. Not just me. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. You see, Claire was given a choice. And now, so are you. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. Join us. Or disappear like she did. Emily's pulse pounded. Claire's eyes shone with something between fear and regret. Emily licked her dry lips, her mind racing. And if I refuse? The man's smirk widened. Then we make sure no one ever comes looking for you again. The room spun around her. This wasn't just about Claire. It was bigger, darker. And now, she was trapped in it too. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. The man's words wrapped around her like a noose. Join us. Or disappear. Claire stood motionless, her eyes pleading, but she said nothing. Emily swallowed hard. What do you mean, join you? The man chuckled. Smart girl. You're asking the right questions. He straightened, circling her like a predator. Let's just say we're in the business of control. Information.
Power.
Claire tried to escape, and we let her think she did. But no one leaves for good. Emily turned to Claire, desperation rising in her voice. Claire, tell me this isn't real. Claire's gaze flickered with guilt. I tried to warn you, Em. I told you not to come. Emily's breath hitched. You lured me here. Claire looked away. The man sighed. Enough wasting time. He leaned in, voice low and menacing. You have potential, Emily. You're smart, determined. Someone like you could be useful. Emily's stomach twisted. And if I say no? His smirk never wavered. Then I make an example of you. Just like I did with the last person who refused. Emily's hands clenched into fists.
She needed time.
A way out. She exhaled slowly. If I say yes, what happens next? Claire's head snapped toward her, eyes wide with shock. The man's smirk deepened. Smart girl. He stepped back. You'll prove yourself first. A test, if you will. Emily kept her expression blank, even as dread coiled in her chest. What kind of test? He pulled something from his pocket and tossed it onto the table beside her. A gun. Emily's breath caught. The man nodded toward Claire. Kill her. The room turned ice cold. Claire stiffened. Emily stared at the gun, her heartbeat slamming against her ribs. Prove your loyalty, the man said, his voice smooth as silk. Or we do it for you. Claire swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. Emily, don't. Emily's fingers twitched. She had seconds to decide. Her mind screamed at her. Think fast. Stay alive. She reached for the gun. Emily's fingers curled around the gun's cold metal grip. Her pulse pounded so loudly, she could barely hear anything else. Claire's breathing was ragged, her eyes locked on Emily's. Emily, Claire whispered, don't do this. The man's voice was smooth, patient, but firm. You wanted answers. This is the price. Kill her, and you walk out of here with power. Refuse and you both die. Emily's grip tightened. Her mind raced. There has to be a way out. Claire's hands clenched into fists. Emily, listen to me. Whatever happens, don't let them win. Emily swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed that this was a test, but not the one the man wanted her to believe. If she pulled the trigger, she lost herself.
If she didn't, they'd both die.
Unless she moved fast. With a sharp intake of breath, she spun the gun around, gripping it by the barrel, and slammed the handle into the man's face. He stumbled back, cursing. Claire reacted instantly. She lunged, grabbing a metal pipe from the corner and swinging it at the second guard near the door. The man grunted as it connected with his ribs, but he didn't go down. Emily turned, raising the gun, only to have a strong hand clamp around her wrist. The first man recovered fast, his face twisted in rage. He slammed her against the wall, knocking the breath from her lungs. "Stupid girl," he hissed. Emily struggled, but he was too strong. The gun slipped from her grasp, clattering to the floor. Claire screamed her name. Then bang! The sound of a gunshot echoed through the basement. The man's grip slackened. His expression flickered with shock as he staggered backward, blood blooming across his chest. Claire stood behind him, the fallen gun trembling in her hands. Her face was pale, eyes wide. Emily gasped, pushing away from the wall. "Claire, run!" Claire shouted. No hesitation. Emily grabbed Claire's wrist, yanked open the door, and bolted. The cold night air hit Emily like a slap as they burst out of the building. A warehouse. They were in an industrial area, surrounded by empty lots and towering shipping containers. Behind them, shouts rang out. More men. More danger. Claire gritted her teeth. "We need to split up." Emily's eyes widened.
No.
"I just got you back. I'm not losing you again." Claire grabbed Emily's shoulders, her grip firm. "Listen to me. They won't stop hunting us. I know a place to hide, but I need to lead them away first." Emily shook her head. "Claire. Go." Claire shoved her toward the alley. "I'll find you. I promise." Before Emily could protest, Claire turned and ran in the opposite direction. The men chasing them veered toward Claire, leaving Emily standing in the shadows. Her hands trembled. She wanted to run after her, to fight, but she knew Claire was right. If they stayed together, neither of them would make it. Emily took a shaky breath. Stay alive. Find Claire again. Then she turned and disappeared into the night. Emily's lungs burned as she sprinted through the maze of rusted train cars. Her legs ached, but she didn't dare stop. The men were after Claire, but that didn't mean she was safe. She crouched behind an old freight car, pressing a hand against her pounding chest. Her mind reeled. Claire was alive. She was part of something dangerous. And now so was I. A distant shout made her tense. She peeked around the corner. A black SUV prowled down the street, headlights sweeping over the yard. Emily's breath hitched. They're still looking for me. She needed a plan. Somewhere safe to go. Then her phone vibrated. She yanked it out, her heart stalling when she saw the message. Unknown number. Keep moving. Trust no one. Emily's fingers tightened around the phone.
Claire.
Her fingers flew across the screen. Emily, where are you? Are you okay? Dots appeared. Then, unknown number. Go to 14th and Holloway. Find Owen. He'll help. Emily hesitated. Owen? Who the hell is Owen? Before she could respond, the typing bubble disappeared. Another car passed by, forcing Emily deeper into the shadows. She exhaled sharply. She had no choice. Claire was on the run, and she had given her a name. It was the only lead she had. 14th and Holloway it is. The street was nearly deserted when Emily arrived. A rundown bar flickered with neon lights, its sign missing letters. Owen's here? She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder. No sign of pursuit, but she didn't trust it. Steeling herself, she pushed open the door. The bar was dimly lit, smoky. A handful of people sat hunched over drinks. A man in a leather jacket sat at the far end, nursing a whiskey. He was broad-shouldered, mid-30s, with dark stubble and sharp eyes that flicked up the second she stepped inside. Emily's instincts screamed that he was watching her. She approached cautiously. "I'm looking for Owen." The man studied her, then smirked. "You must be Emily." Her stomach dropped. "Claire sent me." His expression darkened. "Then you're in more trouble than I thought." Emily clenched her fists. "What do you know about Claire? Who are those people after us?" Owen swirled his drink, then set it down. "They're part of something big. Something you don't want to be involved in."
He leaned in.
"But it's too late, isn't it?" Emily swallowed hard. "If you know something, tell me." Owen exhaled through his nose. "Claire's been running from them for years. She was supposed to be dead, but she wasn't. And now, because you got involved, they won't stop until they get you too." Emily's hands trembled. "Then help me." Owen's gaze hardened. "I can. But it comes with a price." Emily's pulse pounded. She didn't have a choice. "Fine," she said. "Just tell me how to find Claire before it's too late." Owen's lips curled into a knowing smirk. "Then let's get started." Emily's fingers curled into fists as Owen studied her, his smirk fading into something more serious. "You have no idea what you've stepped into, do you?" he muttered, finishing his drink. Emily's jaw tightened. "I don't care. I need to find Claire." Owen exhaled, rubbing a hand down his face. "They don't just let people go, Emily. If she's alive, it means she's either running or she's playing their game." Emily stiffened. "She's not one of them." Owen tilted his head. "You sure about that?" Doubt gnawed at her, but she shoved it away. "Can you help me or not?" Owen watched her for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. "I know where they might take her if they caught her, but getting in won't be easy." Emily's pulse jumped. "Tell me where." Owen leaned forward, his voice dropping low. "There's an old factory on the outskirts of town. Looks abandoned, but it's not. That's where they keep people they want to break." A chill ran down Emily's spine. "Then we don't have time to waste." Owen smirked. "Not so fast. If I help you, I need something in return." Emily narrowed her eyes. "What?" Owen sat back, crossing his arms. "A favor. No questions asked. When I call, you owe me." Emily hesitated. She barely knew him, but she had no choice.
"Fine," she said.
"Just get me inside." Owen's smirk widened. "Then let's get moving. We've got a friend to save." The factory loomed ahead, its rusted metal walls swallowing what little moonlight filtered through the clouds. Emily crouched behind a row of shipping containers, her heart hammering as she scanned the entrance. 2 guards.
Armed.
Owen knelt beside her, slipping a knife from his boot. "We do this quiet. No screw-ups." Emily nodded, swallowing hard. She wasn't a fighter, but she'd come too far to back down now. Owen moved first, slipping through the shadows. He took down the first guard with terrifying efficiency, a quick choke hold, then silence. Emily barely had time to register the speed of it before the second guard turned. She acted on instinct. Grabbing a loose metal pipe from the ground, she swung. The impact sent a sickening jolt up her arms as the man crumpled. Owen raised an eyebrow. "Not bad." Emily ignored him. "Let's go." They slipped inside, the air thick with a scent of oil and dust. Distant voices echoed through the halls. Then, a scream. Emily's blood ran cold.
"Claire."
She took off running before Owen could stop her, heart racing as she followed the sound. She burst into a dimly lit room and froze. Claire was there, wrists bound, a bruise blooming on her cheek. And standing beside her was the man from the basement. He grinned. "Took you long enough." Emily's stomach dropped. They'd been waiting for her. Emily's breath hitched as the man smirked at her, his dark eyes gleaming with amusement. Claire sat bound to a chair, her wrists raw from struggling. Owen stepped in behind Emily, his posture tense. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath. The man tilted his head. "Did you really think you could just walk in and take her?" Emily's fingers twitched. She needed a plan.
"Fast."
"Let her go," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The man chuckled.
"Oh, Emily.
"You walked into our trap and you still think you're in control?" He turned to Claire. She really doesn't know when to quit, does she? Claire's jaw tightened. Emily, don't listen to him. Owen shifted beside her. This is getting messy. The man's smirk widened.
Ah, Owen.
Always lingering in the shadows. I was wondering when you'd show up. Emily stiffened. You know him. Owen exhaled sharply. That's a long story. Emily's stomach twisted. Whose side are you on? Owen's silence was enough of an answer. Claire's eyes widened. Emily, get out of here now. But it was too late. A hand clamped around Emily's wrist, twisting her arm behind her back. Pain shot through her shoulder. She gasped, struggling, but another man, one she hadn't seen, had her restrained. The first man leaned in, his voice a low whisper. I gave you a choice before, Emily. This time, I'm not asking. Emily's pulse pounded. She caught Claire's desperate gaze. The only way out of this was to think fast. Her mind raced. There has to be a way to turn this around. Then she noticed it. The guard holding her, his grip was strong, but his stance was off. An opening. Emily took a deep breath, then acted. She stomped down hard on his foot and twisted violently, throwing her weight forward. The guard yelped, loosening his grip just enough. She drove her elbow into his ribs. He stumbled, cursing. Owen moved in a blur, striking the second guard before he could react. Claire struggled against her restraints. Emily, get me out of here. Emily grabbed the nearest object, a rusted crowbar, and swung it at the man in charge. He ducked at the last second, but she forced him back, creating distance. Owen yanked out a knife, his voice sharp. We're running out of time, kid. Emily's chest heaved. They couldn't fight forever. They needed to go. She spun, rushing to Claire's chair. Hold still. She fumbled with the ropes, fingers shaking. The man wiped blood from his lip, his expression turning cold. Enough. A deafening bang echoed through the room. Emily barely had time to react before Owen shoved her to the ground. A bullet slammed into the wall inches from where she had stood. Emily's ears rang. Panic clawed at her throat.
They're shooting at us now.
Owen grabbed her arm. We need to move. Claire was still half-bound, but Emily wasn't leaving without her. She yanked the ropes free with one final pull. Come on. Claire stumbled to her feet, wincing, but she didn't hesitate. The man raised his gun again. Owen threw his knife. The blade buried itself in the man's shoulder. He howled in pain, the gun clattering to the floor. Emily didn't wait. She grabbed Claire's hand and ran. Owen was right behind them. Gunfire erupted as they dashed through the factory. Bullets ricocheted off metal beams, sparks flying in the dim light. Emily's heart pounded. The exit was just ahead. A black SUV screeched to a stop outside, blocking their path. More men. More weapons. They were surrounded. Claire's grip tightened around Emily's. What do we do now? Emily's mind whirled. Think. Then she saw it, a ladder leading up to the factory's rafters. She pointed. Up there. Owen cursed under his breath, but didn't argue. Go. They scrambled up the ladder as the men below shouted orders. Emily's hands burned as she climbed, her breath ragged. They reached the catwalk, just as bullets shattered the metal railing beside them. Claire screamed. The walkway tilted. Emily's stomach dropped as the entire section beneath them groaned, and then it collapsed. They were falling. Everything went dark. Emily's body slammed onto cold metal, the impact knocking the air from her lungs. Distantly, she heard Claire groan beside her, but her mind reeled from the fall. Gunfire echoed through the factory, voices shouting. They were still being hunted. She forced her eyes open. The catwalk had collapsed onto a pile of crates, breaking their fall, but not by much. Owen was already on his feet, gripping his side in pain but scanning their surroundings like a man calculating his next move. Claire coughed, struggling up. Emily. I'm here, Emily gasped. But there was no time to recover. The man with the gun, wounded but furious, was staggering toward them from the wreckage, raising his weapon. Owen moved fast. He lunged forward, grabbing a broken pipe from the ground and hurling it. The makeshift weapon struck the man's arm, knocking the gun from his grasp. Emily didn't hesitate. She scrambled up and grabbed Claire's wrist. "We have to run." They bolted toward the far end of the factory, weaving through rusted machines and stacks of forgotten debris. A massive set of old loading bay doors loomed ahead, chained shut, but barely holding together. Owen skidded to a stop beside them, pulling a small knife from his boot. He wedged it into the padlock, twisting hard. "Come on, come on!" Shouts grew closer. Heavy footsteps thundered behind them. The padlock snapped. Owen kicked the doors open, revealing a long drop to the murky river below. Claire froze. "You have got to be kidding me." Emily didn't think, she acted. She grabbed Claire's hand and jumped. Cold water swallowed her whole. For a second, there was only silence, the world fading into an abyss. Then she fought her way to the surface, gasping for air. Claire surfaced beside her, coughing and cursing. A splash. Owen had followed. "Move," he yelled. "They won't stop." The river's current was strong, pulling them downstream. Emily let it take her, focusing on keeping her head above water. The factory grew smaller behind them. Shouts still rang out, but they weren't being followed. They had made it. The hideout Owen took them to was a rundown motel on the outskirts of town. The neon sign flickered outside as they stumbled into the dimly lit room, dripping wet and exhausted. Emily collapsed onto the old couch, running shaky hands through her hair.
"Claire, talk to me."
"What the hell is going on?" Claire hesitated, glancing at Owen. He gave her a look, one that clearly said tell her everything. Claire sighed, rubbing her wrists. "I didn't just vanish all those years ago, I ran." Emily's stomach clenched. "From them?" Claire nodded. "They're not just some gang. They're connected, government, corporations, people with real power. I found out something I wasn't supposed to. Something that could ruin them." Owen crossed his arms. "They want her silenced. And now they want you too." Emily swallowed hard. "Then what's our next move?" Claire exhaled. "We disappear. For real this time." Emily's chest tightened. "And if I don't want to run?" Owen smirked. "Then you fight." Emily looked between them. Her best friend, thought to be dead. A man she barely trusted. A conspiracy she never asked for. She took a deep breath, her heart steady. "Then let's fight." Claire smiled. "That's my girl." Outside, the neon sign buzzed. The world was still hunting them. But Emily had made her choice. And she wasn't running anymore. Thanks for watching. For more stories, please subscribe Eververse Novel.